Prime Minister Mark Carney pulled back the curtain this week on his approach to dealing with U.S. President Donald Trump. This week, Carney was asked about his game plan for managing that relationship.
Respect, but not obsequiousness. He's president for a reason. He's eminently, elected twice. You would say elected 3 times. He appreciates, particularly in private, being direct and discussing issues and being clear where your position is. You don't want to say anything in public that you can't back up. Be careful in terms of the language that you use with him, but in a way that's consistent with what you really think. He is more interested in your viewpoint on various things in private, and that creates an ability to work through things. But it's not easy, to be clear. It's not easy.
Meanwhile, Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc will be in Washington tomorrow. He'll be meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer as Canada and the U.S. prepare to review their key free trade deal. And speaking of that review, today the U.S. and Mexico announced the first round of bilateral discussions in preparation for the trade pacts review, with negotiators set to hold their first meeting in just over a week. Let's bring in our Reporter Roundtable. Robert Fife is the Ottawa bureau chief for the Globe and Mail, and I should say Bob Fife was my first boss when I first came to Ottawa. It's been a rough journey in that first start. So.
I have real stories to tell you.
Yeah, so we're not going to be getting into those stories. Mia Rabson is the deputy parliamentary bureau chief at the Canadian Press, and Joel Denis Bellavance is the parliamentary bureau chief for La Presse. So welcome. We're going to start.
Good to see you.
We're going to start with a little bit more. We're going to take a deep breath and talk about things that are not destruction in this moment. But again, they are still so serious because the Canada-U.S. relationship is in such a difficult spot right now. Bob, what do you make of what we learned from, Mark Carney talking about how he tries to manage the Canada-U.S. relationship with Donald Trump being so volatile?
Well, I don't think there was a great deal of insight into this. I mean, you could have told us the same thing. You cover the president. You know what he's like. I guess the only thing is that Donald Trump can be different in private, that he may listen to you more than he seems to do when he comes out and he just flies off the handle at whatever issue he's flying off the handle at. But the key thing here is that the Prime Minister was so careful in describing that conversation, because everybody knows the man is volatile, and if you say the wrong thing, he will freak out, and God will get another 15% tariff added to us. Yeah,
it certainly, there are consequences when Donald Trump hears things he doesn't like. He does take action, whether it's a threat or actually something he follows through on. It's always, you have to wait until there's a piece of paper to say, okay, this action is going to happen. Mia, what do you make of what the Prime Minister had to say?
I mean, it was interesting to hear him talking about it sort of a little bit maybe more candidly than we've heard him say it before. I think we've seen this play out in action as well, and how he's handled various conversations with him. He hasn't been the one that come out and insult him or say negative things about the president. He's let others maybe take the lead on some of those conversations. So I think he was sort of explaining what he sees that's behind the behavior that we've seen him which to date seems to really be, we'll talk when you want to talk. I'm not going to sort of hero worship you. We're going to be over here doing what we need to be doing when you're ready. But he also isn't insulting him or yelling at him or screaming at him. I do think it was interesting that he said you have to be prepared for any meeting you have with him. Whatever you say to him, you have to have it sort of backed up, that you can't be unprepared for any meeting with him, because there's huge risks that come with that. I thought that was interesting.
JD, what do you make of it?
Well, I think that's the final conclusion, if I may say, of Mr. Carney's view of Mr. Trump. In a way, Mr. Carney has learned to deal with Mr. Trump over the last 12 months. When he first arrived, he was chasing his company, trying to get closer to him, to try to eliminate the sectoral tariffs. But after a while, he understood that there's nothing you can do with this man. So the kind of attention-seeking attitude has become some indifference. I'll give you an example. In November, I believe, when he was in a summit somewhere, he was asked, when was the last time you talked to Donald Trump? And he just said, who cares? So it's sort of an indifference, not seeking his attention, but when he gets it, he talks to him respectfully. But otherwise, I think Mr. Carney has understood that we are running the clock, sort of, if I may say, towards the midterms, and this will curtail the power that the president can exercise on Canada and other nations.
I wonder, though, what the result of the midterm elections is going to be. That, we talk so much about how Donald Trump is down in the polls right now, but when you travel outside of major city centers, the support for Donald Trump, at least in my interactions with Americans, we were just in North Carolina, it is still there. I know that the national polls are showing different things, and Republican lawmakers could be in some trouble, but we're never predicting American voters is such a difficult thing, and just based on sort of the experiences that I've had in North Carolina, Kentucky, and other places that are known as Trump country, even though life might not be more affordable in the ways they were hoping, that there are some challenges ahead. They believe in the long-term vision that Donald Trump has put out there for America, and that, even with tariffs, when it comes to tariffs, the way that people say it, they understand that, okay, I might have to pay a little bit more right now for whether it's groceries or this or that or, TVs. And then it comes back to the original vision that Donald Trump puts out there about how, okay, you know what, in the long term, we're going to have more factories. All of these things are going to happen. And I believe this is going to create a better future for my kids and my grandkids. And we don't know, obviously, we don't know if that's going to happen, but there's belief in there.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
He does have the hardcore. But he's losing a lot of American voters.
The independent voters.
And the independent, and he's losing some of the Republicans as well. And there's a real danger here with this war in Iran that it's even going to get worse for American consumers, with gasoline prices going up, home heating fuel going up, the cost of food going up. There's no end game in sight with this Iran war. I mean, he said it could last 3 or 4 weeks. Well, good luck. I mean, it could last a hell of a lot longer. And we're seeing our allies in the Gulf states being attacked, and we don't know whether this is going to lead to another refugee crisis of people going in, fleeing Iran or other nearby countries into Europe. Higher prices, higher inflation. And a president who still wants to hit you with 15% tariffs. I do think that the American people are going to increasingly turn against them, but not the hardcore. I agree with you on that.
The hardcore there, it exists, and it's like, who is going to turn up in the midterm elections? Even though Trump's name isn't on the ballot, it's not necessarily. It's more about who's not going to show up, and if that's going to create enough of a gap for Democrats to take more control in Congress, take control of the House, and possibly make some gains in the Senate that makes it harder for Donald Trump to actually implement his agenda. But JD, did you want to make a point?
Well, I was talking about the independent voters. Those are critical elements in the elections in the United States. You've got the hardcore MAGA Republican movement, and then the Democrats who will never vote for Donald Trump, but the independents, they go this way or this way. And those people, I think, are becoming more critical of Donald Trump, and some of them do regret voting for him in the last presidential election.
I think that going forward, one of the things that we're going to have to watch, Bob, you kind of talked on that, is about the increase in prices as a result of what's going on in the Middle East right now. Just like anecdotally, for example, in the U.S., I have like a very, very small SUV. And to fill up my tank of gas, and it's a 60-liter tank, it costs me $30 US. And so if I'm an American and I get used to paying $30 to fill up my tank, and all of a sudden you see that start to spike, there is a cost of living crisis in the United States right now. And if you start to see, gas is one of the things that was a success story for Donald Trump. Gas prices had come down. And if that goes up and the other things continue to go up and we start seeing American soldiers killed in action, it is going to create this compounding effect that, in a midterm election year, there could be blowback. But again,
and especially since Mr. Trump said he didn't want to get involved into forever wars. We've heard him denounce Barack Obama, George W. Bush, all the wars that the United States were involved in, and saying, I will never do that. Well, guess what? He captured Maduro in Venezuela, and now he attacked with Israel, Iran, trying to pull a Venezuela scenario maybe with Iran, but it's not the same situation you're dealing with. So I agree with you. It's going to get more complicated, and I think Mr. Trump will face the midterms election, I think, in a very difficult position.
If we take a step back right now and we all lock in bets right now, I am very I don't know. There's something about being there when you go out. I am very hesitant to sort of jump in just yet and say, okay, this is going to be the change maker election that helps the Democrats get ahead. But Mia, were you?
Just remember that when Kamala Harris took over the nominee from Joe Biden last summer, I think, or whenever, the summer of 2020, 2024, I guess it was, she was going to win. The numbers were suggesting that she was going to win, and it didn't take very long for those numbers to change. 6 months is a huge time in politics. We have a war, we have inflation. There are so many things that can happen between now and then. I couldn't possibly predict what the American people are going to do in 6 months.
No, I agree as well.
The history shows, though, that normally midterms after a president has been elected, that the House, at least the House or the Senate, goes to the other party.
Yeah, history is not on his side, absolutely, in this case. But
I'm not sure the Democrats are preparing the way they need to be either to take advantage of this.
We'll go like November, like 12th. We'll like come back together. We can play this clip, and I can embarrass myself and be completely wrong. But I don't know.
No, but you're right. To be careful. You're right.
You've been out as a reporter, meeting people in all these states, and there's nothing beats being on the ground
and just going in and talking to communities. We're trying to do more of that as much as we can, to just get out and talk to regular humans. And
there was a very famous Washington Post columnist named David Broder, who always predicted American elections because he never followed the leaders. He went went all across the United States talking to people, and he was always bang on in his outcome because he talked to people.
Yeah, and Mr. Trump has shown that he's like a cat. He's got 9 lives. How many he has used so far, I don't know, but he has many lives.
You can tell that the Washington correspondent is like sort of like, I don't think we normally would have talked about this, but I just happen to be here. So I know sometimes it irks our viewers. They're like, why aren't we talking about Canada things? I'm like, I'm sorry, this is what I cover.
I don't know. Every room I'm in, within 10 minutes, somehow Trump comes up. So
it is. The Dominic LeBlanc, he's on his way to Washington. He'll be there tomorrow. He'll be having meetings with Jameson Greer. Remember these trade talks between Canada and the U.S., trying to sort of get to some sort of resolution to lower the tariffs on steel and aluminum. Those broad talks, they broke off after the Ontario ad that irked Donald Trump. And now Dominic LeBlanc is coming in, trying to sort of restart possibly those conversations, but focus on the renegotiation or the review of CUSMA. Bob, what are you looking for to come out of this with Dominic LeBlanc?
Well, first of all, these are the first formal talks that are going to be underway since October, when the president got mad at Doug Ford and canceled the talks. I don't think we should expect very much from this. The Americans we have very strained relationship with the Americans. Trump's mad over the anti-tariffs ads. He's mad over the China EV imports, and he's mad about Davos, the speech. So this is not going to be a great meeting for Dominic LeBlanc. He's very charming, and I'm sure he'll bring a box of Cuban cigars to Jameson Greer and maybe a bottle of whiskey. But I don't think it's going to have any.
Maybe he shouldn't take the whiskey.
Fun fact: Jameson Greer, it is my understanding, does not drink. I've heard that. I believe Jameson Greer is
Canadian milk.
Well, exactly. Bring something.
He's also kind of mad that we're not importing most American wines and beers right now, and whiskeys and stuff right now. So maybe we don't give him Canadian liquor.
The meeting has to, because they have to get these talks underway, right? They met with the Mexicans. They're now going to have formal talks, bilateral talks, mind you, with the Mexicans on next week. And I suspect there'll be a press release out tomorrow saying that maybe next week or the week after, these talks will get underway. But it's bilateral talks. We're not talking trilateral discussions, which is what the Americans want. The Mexicans and Canadians want to sit down with all 3 countries together.
And Dominic LeBlanc was just in Mexico, where they were trying to make the case for doing that very strongly. And I mean, right now we're seeing the Mexicans agreeing to bilateral talks, but you almost can't say no if these talks are. I mean, if Canada said, "No, we're not going to talk about this," I mean, it wouldn't fly. So the Americans kind of have the upper hand on that, and I think. Canada's in a bit of an awkward position right now. We need a little bit more from them than they need from us at the moment. They know that, and so. But our tactic till now has been to sort of sit back and not do much. I think that has to start changing.
And I was finding it very interesting that Mr. Greer, to you on the speech, the address to the State of the Nation of Mr. Trump, he sort of laid the conditions that the U.S. wants to see materialize to go ahead with some talks, and those include tariffs. So if we accept tariffs and open up the markets, everything will be fine with Washington. Also, last week, the U.S. Embassy released to us in Ottawa the USTR report of 2025, in which Canada was mentioned several times, namely because of the protection we offer to dairy products in Canada, the supply management program that we have. They want this. They want us to get rid of that. It's not going to happen. Mr. Carney is committed to that, even adopting a law that the Bloc Québécois proposed, and this is now the former law of the land. So it leaves, this was one of the critical conditions that they were mentioning. Also, the digital taxes that is gone now, but there were no other, if I may say. They didn't mention lumber. I didn't see it in this report. I saw dairy a few times and the digital taxes. So they're trying to find grudges against us to hurt us. But it's hard to find other than the dairy products, and it's been around for a while. And they subsidize their own agriculture farmers in the U.S. So if we match those, we'll probably be equivalent in terms of protecting our sector. So I don't know how Mr. Dominic LeBlanc will approach that, but he should know that they want tariffs and they want to destroy our supply management program.
I think we can all predict that the American negotiating position with Canada is going to be bully, intimidation, harassment, because they want concessions. So you know this, you've been covering it, and I don't think it's going to change anything.
No,
But
okay,
then
so
you do have the Prime Minister who just gave a speech in Australia where he was talking about the size of the economy of all of the people if they partner against the United States. So he's going into these talks with a different perspective as well to say, we are not necessarily just waiting for you. So they are the stuff that he's been doing in the meantime will potentially have an impact on these conversations because Canada is proving we aren't necessarily needing to be as reliant as we have been.
Okay, so things have changed since the last time Dominic LeBlanc was talking with any American official, and that is the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down those emergency tariffs. So those were the 35% tariffs on Canada because Donald Trump accused Canada of having a northern border security threat and he didn't like fentanyl crossing the border. We all in Canada are very well aware of what the statistics are. It was largely seen as, Donald Trump trying to do this because he wants to implement a tariff agenda. Again, Canada had large exemptions to those tariffs. However, those tariffs are gone. Do you think Dominic LeBlanc should head down to Washington and maybe offer Jamieson Greer, a little bit of a gift to maybe get things going? Say, do we lift the ban on American booze? Do we say some provinces might start buying American booze again? Is there something like that now that threat is gone?
That they have been discussing whether they should do that, and I think we'll find out tomorrow. But I think the consensus was, let's rag the puck here. This guy's in trouble. We don't know what's going to happen with the midterms, and we don't know. There's no reason for Canada to start giving concessions right away because we did that before, and what did it get us? Just more tariffs.
More tariffs, higher tariffs, more tariffs.
And the concessions on liquor in particular, those are very popular in Canada. It's something that Canadians feel like a tangible thing that we've been able to do to sort of fight back against what's happening. So I think there would be a domestic cost for doing that. Plus, it's a provincial decision. It's not a federal decision. And so you might. And do we see Doug Ford backing down on this? I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's possible, I suppose, but it's hard to imagine you get every province together to agree to do this at this point. So there might be some things that they're willing to put on the table, but I don't think it would be as big as that.
What should be on the table for Mr. Dominic LeBlanc is energy. You should bring back again the project of finishing Keystone XL. It was raised when Mr. Carney went to Washington, I believe, the second time. Mr. Carney opened the discussions about what about finishing Keystone XL on your side, and we could have a pipeline. At a time when the price of oil is increasing, at a time when there are problems with the Strait of Hormuz, having some vessels going there, I think it could be a positive sign on the part of Canada to say, you know what? Let's throw something positive in the mix so that you can come out a winner in this discussion. So I think Keystone XL should be raised by Mr. LeBlanc.
And that also has the benefit of being a good move for domestic politics,
exactly.
At least in the West. So
interesting, he's not meeting the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick.
Okay, we have like 20 seconds left, but you know why I think that is? Howard Lutnick is in, at least domestically, he has to testify before lawmakers because he is named in the Epstein files, and he is named in the Epstein files long after Jeffrey Epstein was first convicted in 2008. Lied about it. There's a photo of him in there that was later deleted. But okay, we are running out of time, and obviously we could keep chatting. This conversation is going to continue. The TV's going to change, and everyone's just going to stay here, and we're just going to sip our water and have a lovely time. So thank you very much for joining us today for the round. I think we call this the Reporter Roundtable. I'm just filling in. Thank you to Bob, JD, and Mia.